This is TWiT.
Hey, I'm excited about this. Apple acquired Primephonic.
Yay.
Andy and I are Primephonic subscribers. Yeah, we hope.
So then are you excited?
Well, yeah, because I may not have to pay a separate fee for Primephonic. I'm hoping Apple...
Cautiously pessimistic?
Cautiously pessimistic. No, optimistic.
I too am optimistic because if given that the big bullet point in the press release was that not just we've bought Primephonic, but also we promise to we are going to be releasing a classical music specific app.
Yeah, we should explain
for devices.
We should explain.
So
Primephonic is a very, very, very good streaming classical service, which has high resolution, great search. It's hard. It turns out it's hard to do a classical service, but they do a great job.
It's so many problems. But no, you start off with the fact that a lot of the really great classical recordings, they're just not part of the catalogs that get put onto streaming. I mean, Spotify and Apple Music are great. They've got lots of. There's so many times I've searched for something and been a little bit surprised to find it because here is a mezzo soprano that has recorded exactly one album for a very, very small publisher, and boom, they've got both of them. But there's lots of stuff on publishers that just don't reach the streaming platforms. But the biggest thing is that it's just such a specific set of needs to be listening to. Well,
you've got, instead of artist, you have composer, and then you have the artist as a separate field, and that's just not the way it is in pop music. And
it's like 4 or 5 dimensions. When I was reading about this, I immediately thought about one of my favorite opera albums, and it's like the number I've got it on my Plex server. And sometimes I wind up playing it because I think, I want to hear some Joyce DiDonato. Sometimes I play it because I want to listen to an album by this wonderful orchestra that plays only Baroque music and only on period instruments. Sometimes Handel is my jam. And the thing is, you have to the app that helps you find these things has to understand what you're looking for and why you're looking for it. Otherwise, you wind up saying, I couldn't find it because it was listed under Mozart. Well, it's like I wasn't looking for Mozart. I was looking for this particular, not only this particular performer, but this particular performance. It's like sometimes you feel like I joked about this on Twitter the other day that sometimes it's not this bad, but sometimes when you're using Spotify or Apple Music, you feel like you're saying, "Hi, do you have any opera?" And you type into the searches, "Ooh, we've got loads of opera. We've got Nessun Dorma by the Three Tenors and that little girl who was on America's Got Talent. Oh, and here is some 70s soft rock music that our algorithm says that people who look for opera would much rather listen to instead." I mean, so it's a different experience. Yeah, exactly.
So this is the bad news is Primephonic is going to be taken offline September 7th, which is pissing the hell out of me. It will no longer be available for new subscribers. My subscription goes through the end of March, unfortunately. Apple Music is going to, according to Apple, this is from their press release, launch a dedicated classical music app next year, combining Primephonic's classical user interface with added features. Now, it's interesting. They're not just going to roll it into Apple Music. They're going to have a separate app.
I find it fascinating that they didn't just leave it on.
It pisses the hell out of me. So I'm going to get 6 months of Apple Music for free, but I'm already paying for Apple One.
Rights expire at when it's sold. A lot it companies have it expressly written in that if you sell it, you lose the rights, and then they have to renegotiate.
Oh, so it's a musical rights issue. Yeah,
maybe
it could be.
Maybe
that's happened before.
It's also interesting that it happens at the beginning of September. So like before an event,
right.
And so.
But Apple themselves say it won't be till next year before their app is available.
Yeah. Right. We just don't know what's going to happen in September. Yeah. But the other thing is that there's a real opportunity in classical to do some interesting things with spatial audio you see a little bit of, but you're
absolutely right. Apple, I think there's something that Apple can do that this original company couldn't do, which is they got enough money to really put money into the creation or the publishing of recordings that have been just locked away in some vaults. There's another soprano that I just heard about that is apparently becoming really, really big on the international circuit, and they immediately this article says, oh, everyone talks about how wonderful her 2009 performance in Popeye was for the Royal Opera Company, Royal Opera House, and like, oh, that's great. And of course, you can go on YouTube and you can find clips of it because it was streamed at one point, and of course they recorded it and they filmed it, but it's not commercially available, or rather, it might be on DVD. I can't remember whether it was on DVD or not. But here's something that's been recorded, but it's not necessarily available as an audio track that you can stream. Apple might have the ability to approach to cut deals with all these international opera companies and say, look, Joyce DiDonato has a new CD coming out in March. As part of the promotion of it, we would love if we could get the Metropolitan Opera's recording of her in Agrippina in 2017, in 2020, as part of our library too. Here is a bucket of money. Can you make it happen? So this is why I did hear from a lot of people on Twitter who were like very, very pessimistic, but I had to remind myself and them that there is definitely a possible alternate future reality in which Apple ruins it. There's also a possibility in which this service would be running perfectly for 2 years and then go completely out of business because it's an extremely niche sort of product. So you have to kind of be optimistic here. I'm just glad that it's being taken care of.
I mean, we talk a lot about things Apple should buy. The Primephonic was never on my radar as something Apple should buy.
So has nobody said Taylor Swift should just remaster the whole thing? It's not on the table.
And I have yet to receive an email from Primephonic, although people are saying Primephonic is offering refunds. I haven't received that email.
I think that Apple is also offering an extension of Apple Music subscriptions.
Yeah, but I'm already paying for
unpaid. Yeah, exactly.
So what do I get? I've got Apple One. I'm paying for all that stuff. So I don't know if that's of any benefit. I'm going to see if I can get a refund. I guess I'm disappointed, I have to say.
Yeah. Oh, we'll have to find out. I mean, it does show exactly how. Don't want to call it cutthroat, but the competition between music streaming platforms is that it's one thing when Apple is so concerned about competition that they did the most desperate and heinous act you can contemplate inside the Apple campus, which is create an Android version of this Apple product. They had to create an Android version of Apple Music, and they're also in the position where it's because so many of these services have mostly the same catalogs, certainly not 100%, but most of the stuff that anybody is ever going to want to find, they'll be able to find. You have to differentiate somehow. And oh my goodness, the way to if you're going to be able to say that we are the best music streaming library for classical, you're going to get a whole bunch of people who might have been indifferent to any particular selection of a streaming service. These are the people who are going to just jump right onto Apple Music immediately. It certainly would have gotten my attention if I weren't already a Primephonic subscriber.
Yeah.
My understanding is that they did the Apple Music Android version. The winning argument for that was because family plans would be a really hard sell if you had a mixed family. You know, if some family members had Android phones and some had iPhones, it would just disqualify you from those. And I think that was a smart and savvy move. What I still want to know is how the poor person in Cupertino who's in charge of programming the Tizen app for TV Plus goes every day going to work. Because that must be like, there's a few jobs inside Apple where you get leered at in the cafeteria, and I'm guessing that's probably one of them.
You got to have like a old woman in a gray robe banging a gong saying "unclean shame clang" as the Tizen developers walk into the Apple cafeteria. Shame clang.
They do say that there will be some new classical music features in Apple Music, so I'll look forward to seeing those, including they're going to solve some of these issues by being able to browse and search by composer, by repertoire, detailed display of classical music metadata, plus new features and benefits. And Primephonic had great playlists. They had a wonderful podcast too.
Yeah, exactly. Curation is a really, really great thing. I'll wind down, but the simplest thing is just simply like there's so many times where even on a streaming service, I'll be playing like an opera, and because they've screwed up the metadata, instead of being able to look at my phone and see what track I'm playing, it thinks that the title of this is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, The Abduction from the Seraglio, Act 1, Scene 3. And so it's already used 3 times the amount of space that's on the phone for track before it tells me, oh, by the way, this is the aria that you're actually hoping to look for at this point. So yeah, if even trying to make this work on Plex is I've had to redo it 2 or 3 times to find a system that works, and I would even kind of love it if I didn't have to do that on my Plex server, and I can just, here, Apple, have some money. Please solve this problem for me. You are smarter than I am.